We're going to go right into this, ladies and gentlemen. This is Daryl Guberman. 40-year quality expert Daryl Guberman exposes the infiltration and how Chinese cyber espionage and fraudulent accreditation have entrapped our federal agencies. Ladies and gentlemen, truth seekers and patriots, and my fellow citizens, and also my fellow business associates. For 40 years, I have dedicated my life to ensuring quality and safety in aerospace, manufacturing, and beyond. Today, I stand before you, not merely as a shareholder of Boeing or a technical expert, but as a truth-sayer, determined to expose the systematic corruption that has infiltrated our federal agencies through Chinese cyber espionage and corrupt accreditation cartel. It may surprise you, but the seeds of this infiltration were sown long before 2015, yet 2015 marks a watershed moment, a critical juncture, a turning point when our nation's crown jewels of federal oversight began to be compromised in ways we no longer ignore. Federal agencies that you rely on for your security, such as the Department of Defense, the Department of Justice, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Department of Commerce, and the Department of Homeland Security, have all seen their sensitive data breached by Chinese state-sponsored hackers between 2015 and 21. Let's be clear. Even though these agencies have seen changes in leadership most recently, the new stewards, however, well-intentioned, remain stuck in the same quagmire. They are up to their tuckuses, or asses, or poussons, in the swamp of the American National Standards Institute and the American National Crediting Board. This is not merely bureaucratic inertia. It is a systematic failure fueled by decades of compromised oversight, the infiltration, and its tolls on federal agencies. Between 2015 and 21, key U.S. federal agencies suffered significant data breaches. Office of Personnel Management, over 21 million federal records were exposed from 2015. From 2015 to 21, the DoD repeated cyber intrusions, compromised classified information, and security clearance data. Department of Justice, 2015 to 21, intrusions into confidential investigations and internal data raised serious questions about law enforcement integrity. FBI, persistent cyber attacks, 2015 to 21, undermined the very foundations of our national security and intelligence. Department of Commerce, 2015 to 21, cyber infiltration has exposed sensitive economic and trade data, crippling our competitive edge. Department of Homeland Security, 2015 to 21, even as DHS heads investigative meetings, it too has been compromised, its critical functions eroded by contaminated supply chain accreditation. The corruption accreditation cartel, a Trojan horse for infiltration. In 2015, the International Accreditation Forum, IF, incorporated in Delaware, is an association of national and international accreditation bodies equivalent in accreditation and founded by ANSI-ANAB. IAF has their sister organization in Australia, the International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation. ANSI and ANAB are also underwriters for the IF and ILAC, which means that they are responsible and liable for any systematic or product failure. The IAF effectively handed over to a communist Chinese national in 2015, Zhao Jinwu, a man involved with our quality since 1994. He assumed leadership of the IF and was chief executive of the China National Accreditation Services. This isn't a trivial administrative change. It's a strategic coup, one that enabled Chinese influence to sweep into the very standards meant to ensure our safety. Let's go to 2017. The stakes grew even higher at the Wuhan Institute of Virology Biolevel 4 laboratory, which is the highest containment lab you have with the highest contagion that they're working with, trying to find cures and all that. The BS4 laboratory that was anything but ready, a certificate equivalent to ANSI-ANAB accreditation, was handed over by this very same Chinese operator, Zhao Jinwu. The lab, woefully unprepared with too few trained technicians, became a weak link in our global biosecurity chain. During deposition in Texas in 2017, the Vice President of Laboratory Accreditation for ANSI-ANAB, Pamela Sale, stated, and I quote, "One of the issues is that there is no commonly agreed upon set of standards that forensic labs around the country have to follow. Instead, there are informal guidelines that labs can choose to follow or not." This admission is a damning acknowledgement that these accreditations and certifications are nothing more than paper shields, facades that enable the escape of contagions and contribute to the COVID-19 pandemic. She basically admitted to the escape of the virus from the Wuhan lab. Please note this is like the AS9100 certificate Boeing commercial started working on this past August 2024. For 2 decades, Boeing mandated, though they did not they did not hold an AS9100 certificate for their commercial division. They forced their suppliers to be AS9100 and ANSI ANAB accredited. Why? Because Boeing called out ANSI ANAB out on their supplier bulletin 2002 for AS9100, and they must be ANSI ANAB accredited. And here it is. They call it out as on-site Boeing survey of suppliers' quality system. I'm changing survey to audits because that's what a survey is. Don't let anybody kid you. On-site Boeing audit of supplier's quality system, if need be. What the hell does that mean? That means when a plane crashes, if need is be. Who the hell knows? But this is the most damning statement that they had in this document. Our preference is to deal with proven suppliers with excellent quality performance and not have to do on-site quality system audits. Also, on their supplier portal, Boeing, a third-party registrars must be ANSI ANAB or internationally equivalent. Also, Boeing sat on ANSI ANAB's web page management committee that can grant, suspend, or withdraw certification. Government-endorsed conflicts and illegal endorsements. While our agencies continue to struggle against cyber threats, they are further compromised by their entanglement with these rogue accreditation bodies. Despite federal regulations such as 5 CFR 2635.702, 5 USC, and 331 and FAR Part 4.11 that prohibit federal employees and agencies from endorsing private entities. Figures like Randy Doherty, who handed over the IF in 2015 to the Communist Chinese national Zhao Jinwu, have been promoted on DHS websites as the vice president of ANSI ANAB. Outside the DHS website, he was merely a technical advisor for ANSI ANAB. Likewise, DHS Phil Matheson received over $262,000 from ANSI ANAB on top of his federal salary, blatantly violating the separation required between private interests and government operations. The NIST had a representative on ANSI ANAB, Gordon Gillerman, who was receiving $120,000 from ANSI ANAB on top of his federal salary, blatantly violating separations required between private interests and government. This is compounded by the fact that the Chinese national leading the IF falls under the China National Intelligence Law, Article number 7, a mandate that requires him to conduct espionage, extracting critical data from our government agency he interfaces with. Meanwhile, the Department of Commerce and the FBI, DHS, DOJ remain ensnared in these arrangements. Their leadership changed, but their operational quagmire is intact. The call for reform and accountability, the infiltration of the Chinese cyber espionage coupled with a fraudulent accreditation system have left our federal agencies not only vulnerable, but complicit in a cycle of corruption. Despite best intentions of the new leadership, these agencies remain trapped in decades-old practices that favor self-certification and private profit over genuine public safety. As a 40-year quality expert, I have documented every instance, every breach, every betrayal. I stand before you to demand that we break free of this corrupt system, a system that has been bleeding our nation's security, our national security dry since 2015. It is time for sweeping reforms. It is time for accountability that cuts through the swamp of ANSI ANAB once and for all. We must restore true oversight, enforce our federal regulations, without compromise and protect the integrity of our institutions for those who would profit at the expense of our safety. The truth is laid bare before you. My message is simple. The status quo is unacceptable, and we must act now. Let us reclaim our national security and rebuild a system where quality, safety, and accountability are not sacrificed for expediency or profit. And yes, the 4 agencies, the FBI, DHS, Department of Commerce, and the Department of Defense, we are in deep shit. Just because the players change doesn't mean the quagmire isn't full of crocodiles. 203-556-1493. I thank you.